late side of the paranormal. I'm Jenna, and sorry for the change up of background. I am actually shop sitting for a friend of mine who owns this beautiful little knitting store. And also the heating is not working properly today in the building and I'm freezing, but that's okay. So I am just going to be talking to you today, just very casually, about coincidences. So I've always found coincidences to be so interesting. And I'm sure at this point in our lives, we all know what a coincidence is, but I will read you the definition, which I find a little bit confusing, but I guess the whole subject of coincidences is a little bit confusing. But anyway, so the definition is an occurrence of events or circumstances with no apparent connection that happen casually. I always find them so interesting, and for as long as I can remember, I've always felt like coincidences aren't just random. There is a reason that they're happening. What the reason is, I feel like it's way beyond us. Our little human minds don't comprehend what's trying to be told to us. But I've always believed that there's no such thing as just a coincidence. That whatever is happening because you are being told or you are being shown by spirit, by God, by the divine, by spirit guides, that you are on the right path, that everything is coming together and you are where you are supposed to be at that moment. So some people believe that coincidences are nothing but just something that happens off the fly, just wow, that's kind of funny. Some people believe that it's paranormal. Some people believe that it has a more spiritual feel to it. Or some people believe that it's fate and that everyone has a predetermined plan and that what you're seeing and what's happening with the coincidences is just markers on your life plan as you go along. So just for a fun thing for the 31 days of Halloween, I thought I would read you some of my favorite coincidences that have been recorded over time. Things that you're just like, things that just blow your mind, or blow my mind. So this is the story of the twins from Ohio. A set of twins from Ohio who were separated at birth grew up without any knowledge of each other's existence. Their lives did, however, share a number of strange similarities. They both were named James by their adopters. They both grew up to be police officers, and both of them married ladies with the name Linda. But that's not all. Each one had a son, one named James Allen, spelled A-L-L-E-N, and one had a son named James Allen, Allen spelled A-L-E-N. So they both named their son the exact same name. Each also had a dog that they both named Toy, and both brothers later got a divorce and remarried, both of them remarrying ladies named Betty. That's like a whole other thought that I have about twins. We'll have to do a video on twins because Alice is a twin, if you didn't know. I already believe that twins are essentially the same person that has been divided in two. So it's not unlikely that they would both become police officers and both come up with the same names or have the same likes. It is funny, however, that they both married ladies twice with the same names. That's interesting. I wonder how much those ladies had in common. That would have been interesting to go into depth about. So the next story that I'm going to talk about it's about a woman named Jessop, and it goes a little something like this. Depending on how you look at it, Violet Jessop was either one seriously lucky lady or she was one seriously bad omen. The stewardess and nurse was on the HMS Olympic when it struck the HMS Hawk, and she was on board the HMS Britannic when it sank after hitting a sea mine, and she was also traveling on the RMS Titanic when it sank after hitting the iceberg. So it's no wonder that she later became known as Miss Unsinkable. It doesn't say, but I'm assuming she survived the Titanic as well. That's gotta have a lot to do with her, or she just has some bad luck. Or good luck. depending on how you look at it. Is the glass half full or half empty? On the topic of the Titanic, let's also talk about the man who predicted the demise of the Titanic. So 14 years before the Titanic sank, in 1898, Morgan Robertson, a fantasy writer for the US, wrote about a ship sinking in a novella called Futility. The ship in the book was called the Titan, but that's not the end of the similarities. For example, like the real Titanic, the Titan was described to be unsinkable as well. And they also both had insufficient lifeboats, and they both collided with icebergs in the North Atlantic. This is one of my favorite coincidences to be recorded. It's the coincidences. Take a shot every time I say coincidences in this video about coincidences. A shot of apple juice. This is the strange coincidences between Lincoln and Kennedy. Two of America's presidents, namely Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy, share a multitude of barely believable coincidences. Both were killed from gunshot wounds to the back of the head. Both died on a Friday. Both died before a celebration. Kennedy was assassinated on the eve of Thanksgiving and Lincoln was killed right before Easter. And each of them were accompanied by their wife and another couple. So you could look at that and be like, I mean, that could happen multiple times and just be a whatever. But wait, it gets way more interesting. Both had a friend called Billy Graham. Both had 4 children. Both had secretaries named after the other. So Kennedy's secretary was named Mrs. Lincoln, and Lincoln's secretary was called John. And both of their successors were vice presidents called Johnson. So that's quite a few links between the two. So this is another link between two people, Catherine Eddowes and Mary Kelly. On the night of September 29th in 1888, around 8:30 p.m., Catherine Eddowes was found lying drunk on Aldgate High Street in London. She was taken into custody and released at 12:55 a.m. when she was sober enough to go home. Upon leaving, she gave the police a fake name, Mary Kelly. The same night she was released, Catherine Eddowes was murdered by Jack the Ripper, who then went on to murder another woman named Mary Kelly right after. That's spooky. This is also another one of my favorites. In Detroit, sometime in the 1930s, a young, if incredibly careless, mother must have been eternally grateful to a man named Joseph Biglock. As Biglock was walking down the street, the mother's baby fell from a high window on top of Biglock. The baby's fall was broken by him, and both men and the baby were unharmed. A stroke of luck on its own, but a year later, the very same baby fell from the very same window onto poor, unsuspecting Joseph Biglock again as he was passing beneath. And again, they survived the event. First of all, who's letting their baby fall out of a balcony window? Second of all, these two people have got to be linked in some sort of way. I wonder if they stayed connected over the years. I feel like there is some type of connection there that the universe was pulling them together in such a way. Although falling from a balcony, not such a great thing, but at least they both were unharmed. This is a small one, but crazy. South African astronomer, forgive me for my mispronunciation of this, I'm sure, Dane de Twain, gave a lecture on how death can strike anyone at any time. Upon the completion of his lecture, he popped a mint into his throat and it slid back and it choked him to death on the spot. Here's another one. After his sister's suicide, a man vowed revenge on Harry Ziglar, the suitor who had broken his sister's heart, prompting her to take her own life. The brother shot at Ziglar, who fell to the ground. Believing that his task was done, the brother shot and killed himself with the same gun. However, the bullet meant for Ziglar did not strike him, and instead it lodged itself into a nearby tree. 3 years later, Ziglar was working to clear that same location and use dynamite to remove the tree, and the explosion sent the bullet flying, striking, and killing Ziglar. That's incredible that that would happen, like I always say, intent, right? Whether it's positive or negative, that bullet was fused with intent to kill that man. Author Mark Twain was born in 1835, a year that Halley's Comet was visible from Earth, a phenomenon that occurs once every 76 years. The day after the next appearance of that comet, in 1910, Mark Twain died. So that alone is not a big coincidence, but the year before his death, Twain actually predicted and hoped for the outcome, stating, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835, and it's coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it. It will be the greatest disappointment of my life if I don't go back out with Halley's Comet." And the last one, which I always found really interesting, in 1974, a taxi in Bermuda struck a man riding his bike and killed him. And exactly 1 year later, the man's brother died after he had been struck by the exact same taxi driver while driving the exact same bike, carrying the exact same passenger that was in the taxi from the first death. I don't even know what to say after this. Like, being that passenger, you would just be like, what the f, man? Figure your out. It almost makes me angry. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little fun, spooky, kind of interesting video for the 31 days of Halloween. And if you like our content, or if you like paranormal content in general, we don't just do spooky, we do enchanted, we do spiritual, we do informative, but all the topics that fall under the realm of paranormal and unexplained. And if you like all that stuff, please, please subscribe and click that notification bell so that you get notified every single time that we upload. And please give this video a big like. And I welcome you to continue to watch our 31 days of Halloween so that you can get your spook on every day until October 31st. And don't forget to live your life with love and light. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye!